Hello and welcome everyone. This is your astrology forecast for new moon in Sagittarius, and this one is happening on the 1st of December. And this one is giving us an opportunity to truly apply the knowledge and to see that wisdom is the greatest medicine that we have for everything that is happening to us. But it can be paradoxical because the more wisdom we gain, the more conscious we become, the more aware we become of what is not right, not only with the world, but with ourselves. Because what's not right in the world is a projection and reflection of what's not right within ourselves. And we are going to simultaneously have we are gaining clairvoyance about what's not right within ourselves, and at the same time we are gaining great knowledge and great wisdom. And it's a lot about our beliefs and how our beliefs lock us and block us in many ways, how our beliefs create everything that we see and that we have. And of course how collective beliefs affect us, how what people around us, their beliefs affect us, and how we just absorb the beliefs of others around us. And we are going to see that wisdom saves us in the most traumatic and dramatic situations because we definitely have to always work on self-discovery and self-knowledge, because if we don't, then we are completely blinded and we are walking through this life with that blindfold, and we are going to be hit so many times and hurt so many times, and we are going to see things in so many different and wrong ways. We are going to see twisted reality, not as it is, but as we believe they are. And we usually see things as we believe they are, not as they truly are. We see things as we are, not as they are. And this is also one of the biggest lessons of these energies right now, not only of this new moon in Sagittarius, but of this recent shift of Pluto from Capricorn into Aquarius. That is a huge, big shift, and this is an initiation into what's being presented to us, because we are going through big radical changes, and there's no going back. There's no going back. What's in the past is in the past. The old world is gone and the old identity is gone, but we may continue living the shadow of it because we are attached to it, but it's gone really. And some of us may feel like we are ghosts, like we are living the life of ghost. But this is also necessary process now, because it takes some time to see that our old identity is gone. But of course, as the saying goes, don't throw out the baby with the baby water, because the past may have some valuable resources. So we can use the past if it's constructive for us. But if we are using the past and if we are coming back to the past in a destructive way, that's really not going to help us in any way or anyone around us. But some of us may use the past as a way of manipulation, and this is also not going to get us anywhere. So we are definitely asked to integrate ancient wisdom and to see how do we return to that wisdom, how do we reconnect with the essential wisdom that's within ourselves. Because the Sagittarius archetype within ourselves is about the truth seekers and wisdom keepers. So the question is, are you the truth seeker? Are you the wisdom keeper? So let's all focus on that kind of quest. This is the spiritual quest. We are being summoned, we are being initiated, we are being invited into that kind of quest. And this is a major shift in human evolution, and we are all interconnected. And this has to be understood in the right way, not in that twisted new age way that we are all the same and that we are all one. We are essentially all one, but we are also all very individual, authentic, unique beings. And this Pluto in Aquarius is going to teach us a lot about that, about the power of people, about the power of union, about the power of community, about the power of allowing others to be different, to think differently, to live differently, and to see that we don't own anyone. We don't own anyone. And we just came out of the Scorpio season where we have maybe been pushed into that possessive, obsessive way of being where we wanted to own others, and we just couldn't help ourselves because this was, out of our control. But now Sagittarius energy, new moon in Sagittarius, Pluto in Aquarius, and many other things that are happening, really initiating us into the wisdom of knowing that we are all unique and that we all have the right to be different, and that we have to admire, appreciate that those differences, and to see that only when we are different we can do something together, because maybe I know one skill, you know some other skill, somebody else knows the other skill, and when we come together we build things, we build so many different things, and everyone uses their own skill. So let's not try to impose our will onto others. Sagittarius archetype within ourselves may force us to impose our will onto others, to prove our point, to get into conflict of who is right and who is wrong, when essentially no one is right or wrong. Let's go above and beyond the right doings and wrongdoings. Let's try to transcend that part, and let's give our best to get out of that blaming game that I'm always talking about, because I see that no matter how many lessons we get about not blaming others, we again get stuck in that loop because it's so attractive to blame others, especially when we find companions around us to support that blame. And then we just, go into big delusions and deceptions. And these are energies of, cosmical laws, and we cannot avoid them. And the moment we think that we did something, like me personally, my personality, my ego did something great, we are going to be swept off our feet. And so it's very good to understand that we are the tools for higher energies. So the more, the purer we are, the we have to work on having pure emotions, pure thoughts, pure feelings, pure bodies, because this is when those cosmical energies can go through us in their most authentic and constructive way. But when we are stuck in blaming games, when we are stuck in conflicts, when we are stuck in trying to prove something, to prove ourselves right, then these energies won't be filtered through us in a very constructive way. They will give us what we need in order to understand and learn how to get out of those games, manipulative games and all other kinds of games that we are playing, that we are probably unaware of. And this is a very powerful time for truly seeing that this is actually teaching us how to live what is personal. We are living what is personal, and we are moving towards the transpersonal, towards what is good for all of us, not only for me, but what is good also for those around me. And this is also very tricky, but we are learning these lessons now, and we are learning that we may be stuck between salvation and liberation, but we are also thought that we don't need to be saved. So this is not about salvation, it's about liberation. We are going through the process of liberation, and we are not here to save anyone. We get stuck in trying to save others, but this is not our task, this is not our mission. If we try to save anyone, we are going to probably end up in that self-destructive game that destroys the relationship, the other person, and ourselves. So we are truly given some very valuable gems and jewels that teach us how to walk through this life. So as I said, wisdom is very, very valuable. This is the most valuable thing that we can own in this material realm. Wisdom, of our personal experiences, that come through our personal experiences, without blaming anything or anyone. But acceptance is the highest expression of self-knowledge and self-discovery. Acceptance of things that happen right now. And I say many times, this doesn't mean that we passively walk through life and just accept anything that happens. No, we do everything that we can to improve, to upgrade, to cultivate the best. But if it doesn't happen the way we wanted it, that's when acceptance comes in, and satisfaction with what already is here, without trying to change it, without trying to, manipulate the reality in the way we want it to be, the way we imagine it to be. Emotional blackmails may be very strong now too, so let's be aware of that very much. And we may see the dynamic between the victims and perpetrators, because who plays the victim will attract the perpetrator, and the perpetrator will attract the victim. And emotional blackmails that happen in those kinds of relationships may become a bit more transparent, and we may see them in a very refreshing way, in a new way. This is new moon in Sagittarius, so it brings us new beginnings, new perspectives, new paradigms, new knowledge, new way of thinking, new beliefs, new inspiration, new imagination, new ways of looking at life and experiences, new adventures. And we are stretching our perspectives. We are, seeing the bigger picture, not only the pieces, but we can see what it is all about. And we are going to see how some things have been demonized in this world, and we are correcting our old beliefs, and see how some things have been presented to us as anti-spiritual. Like if we are focused on our bodies, if we are focused on finances, these things are in spiritual communities these days, these things are seen as something evil. So we are going to just rewrite those spiritual concepts, and we may see that many things have been wrongly interpreted, and it's not truly about believing, it's more about what we feel, not even what we see, especially not what we hear from others, but what we feel inside of us. And our emotions may be tricky too, but we have to learn to tap into ourselves, to be the seeker of our inner wisdom, and that's when we can get the true feeling. And we are mastering the tools of the Sagittarius. Sagittarius is the archer, and the archer has the bow and arrow to shoot that arrow. And mastering the bow means controlling the mind and desires, showing discipline and wisdom. And this is what we truly need now. It must be noted that it is not enough to understand this. This means that we have to practice it. We have to apply it. We need perseverance. Because, generally the mind is very reactive, and it's calculating things. It's always in something, always busy, always attached to the past and anticipating the future, and rarely in one's own control. And we may see this as concentration, or as an ability to dispel the distractions caused by attachments. But, the minute we let the mind wander and be distracted or think about the outcome, the mind instantly attaches itself to the fruits of that action. And the mind will seek the reward and the satisfaction of hitting the target, the return of investment. And every action becomes a manipulation of the environment to deliver a reward. And this is not what we want. But this is what we may feel attracted towards. You know, we always think about the outcome, we always think about the reward, and this is where we get stuck. Also in all areas of our lives, in our careers, in our relationships with our families, with our inner processes, you know, we always wait for some kind of award or punishment. This is what we've been programmed into. This is the big program of this realm, the reward and the punishment. You know, the old story that we are all somehow sucked into, and we are always doing everything in order to get that reward. We are always doing things in order to get some outcome, but we should really try to do things just for the sake of doing them, you know, to do the good deed and to forget about it, forget that we did that, you know, not having any need to share that you did anything good. You know, just do something that is good and forget about it, forget that you did it, just immediately forget it. It's in the past already. You are now focused on what's right in front of you, and always do your best to be the best in all that you do. And this is not easy, of course, but this new moon in Sagittarius is really giving us these higher self principles that we are asked to live by. You know, Sagittarius and the ninth house, it's all, and the ruler Jupiter is about, you know, big questions, big ideas, big dreams, higher self, higher meaning, higher purpose, higher knowledge, higher education, higher mind, everything that is higher, that is expanded, that is, you know, the bigger picture, the broadening of horizons, the stretching of perception, you know, the breaking through illusions and seeing things as they truly are, searching for truth, searching for meaning. This is what we need. We are thirsty for that knowledge, we are thirsty for that wisdom. And, you know, in the practice of being the archer in this world, of wielding the bow, the student, because Sagittarius is also related to students and teachers, and we may see that everyone we meet is some kind of teacher to us. Everyone we meet is a teacher. And the student begins to transform himself in the practice of wielding the bow with self-control, concentration, and inner stability. And this is gradually being purified, and in a way that it emerges not from attachment, not from fear, but from stillness. We need stillness in order to use the bow and arrow in the right way. And, you know, the archer needs to be able to perform the right action. You know, we have to be able to release the arrow in the right way. So we have to release it. But before releasing it, we need stillness, we need concentration, we need discipline, we need deep inner stability. And, you know, this is also action. As you see, it's not about being passive. When I said acceptance, or, you know, dealing with things that we have in front of us, but we need to act. This is the release of arrow. And that right action itself becomes the reward. So we don't need the reward of the outcome of hitting the target, but releasing the arrow will be the reward itself. And this is about mastering the inner archery, you know. And the bow and arrow and the archer, they are very important in ancient texts and in ancient teachings and in every mastery school of prehistoric times. And the practice is the bow, and you are the arrow, and the truth is your target. And we have to hit that target and to become one with it, not to see it as a reward, but to become one with that target. And there is the need to cross the distance of ignorance. You know, we have to acquire the living knowledge, the knowledge that makes us feel alive. This is an inner realization that results from experience. This is the mastery of archery, and we are establishing being in ourselves, transcending the transient masks, and to reach that which is imperishable. And there are many sayings in these ancient texts. For example, the Upanishads from Vedic teachings, they say that the sound Om, all know about the Aum and the Om. Om is the bow. The Atman is the eternal self, and the Atman is the arrow. While Brahman is the supreme existence, the absolute. That Brahman is said to be the target. So the sound of the universe, the creation of the universe, is the bow. The Atman, the eternal self, the higher self, which is living inside of us. Actually, we are living inside of that higher self. It's not that we have the spirit in the body, but the body is in the spirit. The Atman is the arrow, and the Brahman, the supreme existence, is the target. And it needs to be struck by an undistracted mind. And how undistracted minds we have. And when we can observe our minds, when we can observe our way of thinking, we may see that we are always distracted. We are never still. We can never observe we cannot observe our thoughts. There is a great metaphor for thoughts and consciousness that I love to mention many times, that says that we can perceive our thoughts as the clouds and our consciousness as the pure sky that is always there. It's always above the clouds. And we are just watching the clouds come and go. We are watching the thoughts, observing the thoughts come and go. We don't get attached to any of those thoughts. We just observe them. And we always stay in that conscious place of the pure sky that is above the clouds. Imagine what would happen if the sky would identify itself with those clouds, But what do? We do exactly that. We identify our consciousness with our thoughts. But they just come and go. So we need an undistracted mind. Then the Atman, the eternal self, the higher self, becomes one with the target, with the Brahman, with the supreme existence. Just like the arrow with the target. So this is the reward. This is the true reward. And, this is when the seeker, the truth seeker, the archetype of Sagittarius, becomes one with that absolute reality. And we have to also be very aware of the fact that once the arrow is fired, the bow has served its purpose, and we can also see this as, we ourselves are an arrow. The bow is our intention. The bow is the divine self, the divinity, and it works through us. It will, shoot us. It serves as the base, and we are arrows that are being fired, and we just have to be in alignment with that bow in order to be fired in the right way and hit the target. And we are also learning during this time that it's not so much about being loved, but loving. Are we able to love without the need to be loved back? Can we enjoy being in love just for the sake of being in love? Can we see this as a reward itself, our ability to be in love and to love without the need to be loved back? Can we love? We can love the flower, we can love the sun, but of course the sun loves us back because it gives us the warmth and the light. But sometimes the sun can also hurt us and burn us. So we really have to understand these things in a wise way, to see the wisdom, to find the wisdom in paradoxes, to find the wisdom in being hurt, to find the wisdom in not understanding things. Paradoxes, we are learning a lot through paradoxes now, and we are learning how to use our mind, which is our greatest tool, in a right way, and not to be used by our mind. And just as we often have the worst case scenarios in our head, what if we make a shift and focus on the best case scenarios instead? This is something I mentioned before, but this is ideal for this period right now and for this new moon. What if we can just transform this way of thinking, and instead of always having the worst case scenarios in our head, we can see that we can also have the best case scenarios, and that we know that the darkest is before the dawn. And no matter how many times the sun disappears and it's the dark, the sun will always reappear. No matter what, we cannot stop it from coming out. And we are on this journey, and this is our journey. No matter what that journey is, it's our journey, and we have to own it too. These are the things that we can own. We are learning what we truly own. We can own ourselves, we can own our experiences, we can own our journey. But we shouldn't be attached to that. Owning versus being attached. And we are learning this difference now. We are learning how to do things effortlessly too. And this may be in paradox with our task to use the conscious effort. So we have to use conscious effort in order to do things effortlessly. Just like we are not taught how to fall asleep. There is no process. Nobody ever taught us how to fall asleep. We just fall asleep. Nobody taught us how to wake up. We just wake up. Nobody taught us how to digest the food, but we digest the food. Or how to drink water, or how to eat, or how to breathe. Nobody ever taught us how to breathe. We are just breathing. It's happening naturally. And this is how life should be lived. This is how everything should be, just going on naturally. And we create very complicated things and complex lives because we want things just the way we want them to be. And these are the biggest problems. We are always focused on getting what we want, on always being appreciated, acknowledged, admired, loved, taken care of, whatever. We are very demanding beings. Can we learn to live effortlessly? This is a very, very powerful remedy and medicine. And there are no instructions for these things. They just come naturally. As one astrology teacher said once, like, how do you drop a hot potato? You just drop it. That's how you do things. How do I do things? Just like when you drop something that is hot, that's how you do it. And these are also Zen masters' wisdoms and stories. And I highly recommend for all of you who are listening to just go through some of those Zen stories and try to comprehend the wisdom that is hidden there. These are like riddles, and there is no right or wrong answer there. You just have to, turn on your intuition and see the higher vision of it, see the bigger picture of it. This is what Sagittarius is about. It's about the expansion of our understanding. And this new moon is making square with Saturn in Pisces, and we may feel limited or restricted when it comes to doing something new or initiating something new in our life. We may feel like something is blocking us there, but we need this square if we want to break free, to liberate ourselves. Squares bring crises, squares bring pressures, they bring challenges and tests. And we may be challenged and tested when it comes to our faith, to our spiritual journey, to our intuition, to our healing, to our ability to understand things, to our ability to forgive, to our ability to see things from other people's perspectives, our ability to put ourselves in other person's, in other people's shoes. But we are also asked to put ourselves in our own shoes, because maybe we never did this actually. Like, we are definitely asked to just take a look at ourselves and what do we need, what do I need really, and not my persona, but what my soul needs, what my essential self needs. And we are manifesting deeper understanding of oneness through this. This is really the big lesson here, because this square with Saturn in Pisces is about oneness. Saturn is about, reality and structures and rules and lessons and tests and challenges. So we are going to be tested and challenged with these things, and with how we understand others, how are we able to feel and forgive, and to see that all of this is here to teach us something, not to torture us, but to teach us. And many of us are awakening and feeling shift into higher consciousness, and we are learning a lot through separation. Saturn is separation, and we are seeing extremes of those lessons, but we may be drawn into the manipulative games, power over, dominance. I need to be in control. This can create the energy of greed and violence and destruction. But beneath of that need is, survival of the fittest. And we may have a need to compete, to win, to prove our point, to be in control. And beneath of all that is the wound of loneliness, the wound of aloneness, of emptiness, of longing for connection, of betrayal, of being wounded in many ways. But when we are in that paradigm of domination and need to absorb resources, anything, we are doing anything we can to fill that inner void, deep wound of belonging and sense of separation. And we may be asked, and thrown into that fire of seeing, like, how do we heal that? How do we reclaim wisdom, this lost wisdom? And we are truly learning now how to restructure our whole world, and to see what needs to break down, what needs to transform, and to be more in alignment with that sense of oneness, and to see where do we get caught in that sense of separation of, how do I compete with others to be better, to achieve, to prove myself, versus how am I finding my deeper self through a compassionate relationship with myself, with those around me, and with realization that we are all connected. And we are definitely in a profound time of transformation. This is, karmic checkpoint. And Pluto is definitely calling us now to change our beliefs about our relationships and about us being human beings, what it truly means. And we are definitely asked to let go of belief structures that keep us in that sense of separation and alienation from others and our spirit. Unless we heal the trauma and the wounds of the past, of course we may never truly heal that completely, but unless we acknowledge those traumas, unless we walk through them, unless we allow those traumas to be brought to light, to see them, we tend to continue to project that out in our relationship with others. So if we've ever been betrayed in our early childhood, if we've felt betrayed, maybe we were not even betrayed, because this is, how we create unconscious, subconscious entities that create multiple personalities within ourselves, that then some external situation trigger those sub-personalities, and then we become that personality that is created through that trauma, and we react in that way. We react in a way, not in our essential way. So this is not who we are then. Who reacts? The question is, who is reacting now? Which trauma is being triggered? And we are able to see it and acknowledge it. So unless we acknowledge these traumas and these sub-personalities, we are going to continue to project those out in our relationship with others. And we are going to see how our beliefs are recreating these situations, and how we see ourselves, and how we use our beliefs, and how we see others. These all things have been shaped by our traumas, and this is what Pluto in Aquarius is going to show us deeply, because Aquarius archetype is deeply related to traumas. And I highly recommend the book The Age of Aquarius for everyone. This is really an ideal time to take it and to go through it deeply, because next 20 years we are going to have Pluto in Aquarius, and this new moon in Sagittarius is giving us new vision of what that means, of what that will be like for all of us. And it's giving us some kind of clarity. And this new moon is also making supportive, friendly, and harmonious trine with Mars. And Mars is in Leo during this time. And Mars in Leo is making this supportive energy with this new moon. And these are fire energies. Mars in Leo and new moon in Sagittarius. This is very good for taking action, for initiating something new, for doing something that demands courage, for making risks, for being action-oriented, for doing something despite the fear, despite what everyone else thinks, what everyone else says, what everyone else believes. No matter what, we have the courage now to break free from something, to liberate ourselves, and to do something that demands true courage, but that also demands our ability to see what we truly want and need. Leo archetype is also related with our self-expression, with that, with something that makes us feel alive. That's why the 5th house in Leo is related to the child within us. What did we enjoy doing when we were children? What made us feel good? What fulfills us? What satisfies us on a deeper level? And this Mars in Leo will allow us to do something that really puts us in a new adventure, that brings us new adventure, that reawakens the child within us. And we are moving, as I said, from deep waters of Scorpio, and from all those spiritual turbulences that we experienced in the Scorpio season and with previous eclipses, we move into warm, optimistic, philosophical Sagittarius. And we were faced with our deepest shadows. We had, we have been initiated into a deeper version of ourselves, and now it's time to aim high and to unleash our inner potential with our newfound self, to unleash ourselves, to fire that arrow. And we are fearless, facing the unknown. We are on this spiritual quest. We are leaving the familiar and going on an adventure. We are searching for the meaning in life. We are the knights of the round table, and we are searching for Holy Grail. We are the Templars. We are the wisdom keepers, the truth seekers. Let's not forget this. Let's focus on this kind of perspective of life and ourselves. You know, the Sagittarius is also he's half human, half horse, you know, and the Centaur, using our mind and our body, being the rider of the horse and the horse at the same time, you know, transcending the duality, the polarity of the right doing and wrong doing, and just connecting both into oneness, you know, deeper understanding of what oneness is. And when we achieve that ability to bring our hearts and minds together, to align what we know with what we feel, and this is the toughest thing to do, to align what we know with what we feel, because we usually know things but we don't feel them. And you know, we usually say, I know, I understand, but I cannot help myself. You know, how can I bring myself to that place where what I know is what I live? So once we truly bring that into oneness of what we know and what we feel, this is when we will be able to see the true meaning of the sentence that everything is one, which is not that we are all the same. And this is the initiation into the new dawn that comes after the darkness. After death, there is life. You know, Scorpio and 8th house is death. And then comes the 9th house, so it's not the end. It's not the end, it's transformation. So this is Sagittarius, it's new light, it's the fire of knowledge and wisdom. And Sagittarius archetypes, these are the travelers, the gypsies, pilgrimage, scholars, philosophers, preachers. You know, this is the sign of learning and teaching and traveling. You know, we are, you know, shaking up those established patterns, and we are embracing this new adventure. Spiritual teachings and spiritual teachers are very important now too. This is expansion of consciousness and expansion of mind. We are asking big questions, seeing the bigger picture, wider perspectives. You know, this is the medicine for the soul. And the medicine of the soul can be created out of the poison that made the wound. So let's remember this, you know. The medicine is right there in that poison that created the wound. So we need the wound in order to find the remedy. So medicine for the soul can be created out of the poison that made the wound. And after the darkness of Scorpion comes the liberation on the wings of a horse. And Sagittarius is always on that quest for enlightenment and higher knowledge of the truth. And it unifies the animal and the human to create the bridge between the earth and the heavens. And this is what it's all about. And the glyph of Sagittarius is upward arrow. You know, we are pointing arrow of the archer, ready to be fired into the future. And Sagittarius embodies adventure and the pursuit of the meaning. And we are definitely exploring and expanding our horizons. And these are philanthropic causes, and we are asked to be giving and generous. You know, giving generously. These are spiritual quests. Truth seekers, wisdom keepers, spiritual journeys, religion, higher understanding, philosophy, higher self, higher education, abundance, mystical, artistic, sentimental, the archer. This is what we are initiated into. And Sagittarius is also the explorer, the adventurer, the renegade, you know, inner prophet, spiritual leaders, priests, shamans. Sagittarius is also the sign of the mentor, of the guide, of the coach, of the teacher. And the ruler of this new moon is Jupiter. And Jupiter speaks to us through the heart, but Jupiter is right now in Gemini, and it's retrograde. And we may feel overwhelmed by something. We may go into some kind of extreme. We may discover some information that completely transforms our way of thinking. But we need information that leads us into transformation, and it's very important how we hear it. And this is the opening of the spirit. And after Scorpio, after death, there is new life, the new vision, expansion of the mind. This is, the horizontal and vertical stretch. And some of us may feel crucified on this cross of horizontal and vertical stretch, but let's remember that we are the center point. So we can never really be crucified anywhere. We are the center point. We just stretch our way of perceiving reality. And we may be receiving a lot of messages from our higher selves. So, let's be alert. This is a lot about spiritual protection too, and many synchronicities. A lot of enthusiasm and hope and optimism with this new moon. But let's not just go into that extreme where we are escaping the reality and going completely in a, just seeing, just being too enthusiastic. It's not really good. It can be destructive too. Too much of something good can be destructive. And Jupiter and Sagittarius in the 9th house can have difficulty with that. This is where the trick can be. But this is about believing, trusting, and knowing. First we believe, then we trust, then we know. And we need to know and to own what we know and to apply what we know so that we can, gain that knowledge. This is about direct experience of life. Nobody else can live this life and experience for you. You don't want to hire servants to live life instead of you, right? You have to live it. Nobody can do it for you. And as I spoke before in the video about the eclipse in Libra, where I talked about, who are our first one-on-one relationships, our parents, and also who are our first teachers, also our parents, who are the one who gave us that role in life while we were growing up. But these are our first teachers, and it's very important what we learned from them, because this is what we keep repeating over and over. So this may be a time when we can let go of what we've learned if it's not serving us. And we have to relearn things. We have to learn new things. This is new knowledge. New moon in Sagittarius, new knowledge, new information, and ability to imagine the best case scenario, because our first teachers probably taught us how to, we mastered the worst case scenarios, because most of us grew up in fear. We come in fear. The moment we are born, we are in fear. And the parents, when they get their child, they are afraid, and they do everything to protect out of fear. So this is really a time when we are learning to discern between fear and love. Are we doing things out of fear, or are we doing things out of love? And the line may be very thin and hard to discern. But when we are able to be in that stillness point that this new moon demands, and that we can do thanks to this square with Saturn and trine with Mars, this is where we can write down new stories, new perspectives, new truths, new opportunities, new stories that will give us ability to, share valuable lessons with others that will help them, that will inspire them to expand their horizons too. And this is why we have to accept different opinions and differences between us and others, because this is what helps us grow. Sometimes somebody else's perspective helps us so much. Like, wow, I've never thought about that in that way. Oh, I've never seen it in that way. wow, now I see it, wow, completely differently. This is something else. Like my way of thinking was completely limited. This is what can happen during this new moon. Like we are going to see something in a completely new way. Even though this Mercury is retrograde now and it's also in Sagittarius, but this is good because we are getting second chance to see, to understand something that we couldn't understand before. And with this Mercury retrograde in Sagittarius, we may be relearning some things. We are going over something that we thought we understood, that we thought we learned, that we thought we comprehended, but no, now we are getting more information, maybe from the past, news from the past, messages from the past, people from the past that will help us understand some things in a much better way. And let's focus on possibilities and opportunities, because this new moon brings us new possibilities and new opportunities instead of being focused on fears and obstacles. What if it all works out better than I imagined? What if it turns out to be the best case scenario? We all have stories and narratives of our lives, but we can rewrite those stories. And they are not written in the stone. We make them written in the stone, but we can rewrite them. We become attached to our truths, and because that truth can protect us, of course, but we don't need that kind of protection now. And we may get out of our own way to defend our truth. This is Sagittarius, like I'm defending my way of thinking, my opinions, my perspectives, but this is not good. Let's try to see and to understand, to stretch the perspective, to be more flexible, and to step away from imposing our truth onto others. Some truths definitely serve us, but some definitely hurt us. And we have to let ourselves get lost sometimes, to feel like we lost purpose, because this is when we really start searching for that higher meaning. And this is the time, when we are asked not to play small, but to open our mind and be receptive to blessings, to higher guidance, to divine insights and intuitive hunches, that these things are coming our way. For sure, they are coming our way. This is about freedom. This is really about freedom. And this is when the horseman and the horse become one. And we need to pick ourselves up if we fall, and to become one again, and to see that everything is our assistant, everything and everyone, and there is nothing wrong with anything that we feel. But we cannot measure these things. We cannot measure love, we cannot measure spirituality, we cannot measure us being humans. And really asking ourselves, who am I? This is something that can put us in a trance mode. Not we don't have to have any concrete answer, because there is no concrete answer to this question. This question serves us in order that puts us in a state of being that is that stillness point where we want to fire the arrow. And this is what we are learning now. This is what we truly need. And there is a lot that needs to be transformed in the way that we think and perceive things. And we are supported to stay grounded, to know that we are held all the time. We are always observed by our higher self, actually. And if we can live our life in a way that we are always aware that there is a higher self observing us, this can change our way of living our life completely. We are going to feel observed by our higher selves, and we are going to live differently. Let's try this as a exercise for ourselves. And I'm going to read a couple of quotes from Bhagavad Gita and Mahabharata, These are Vedic texts, and I highly recommend to all of you to go to read, maybe to read these books. You can find them online. And it says, there was never a time when these kings, monarchs, you or I, did not exist, nor shall we ever cease to exist in the future. Just as the soul acquires a childhood body, a youth body, and an old age body during this life, similarly, the soul acquires another body after death. This should not delude the wise. The spirit by whom this entire universe is pervaded is indestructible. No one can destroy the imperishable spirit. The one who thinks that the spirit is a killer and the one who thinks the spirit is killed, both are ignorant, because the spirit neither kills nor is killed. Just as a person puts on new garments after discarding the old ones, similarly, the living entity or the individual soul acquires new bodies after casting away the old bodies. Weapons do not cut this spirit. Fire does not burn it. Water does not make it wet, and the wind does not make it dry. The spirit cannot be cut, burned, wetted, or dried. It is eternal, all-pervading, unchanging, immovable, and primeval. The spirit is said to be unexplainable, incomprehensible, and unchanging. Knowing the spirit as such, you should not grieve. And with this, I would end this forecast, and I wish you all a very powerful, expanding, abundant, and self-discovering and rediscovering new moon in Sagittarius. I love you all and see you in 2 weeks. Bye bye.